folks. Welcome to another edition of the Omnist Hour. This is Rob Trump, your host. Back for another session. This might be a fairly short one. It's kind of a special thing that came up yesterday. Before I launch into it, I'm going to give you the title, and then we'll delve into the subject. The title is Why Censorship is a Cardinal Karmic Sin. Media Tyranny Steals Souls. Before I launch into what caused that, I want to compliment my AI artist on the most surprising and apt implementation of the text I gave it that I've ever seen. I asked it to draw Pinocchio and a puppet ballerina dueling with pistols. Well, the pistols didn't show up, but what did show up was the most incredible representation of what internet censorship does to the unwary Pinocchio. And I think perfectly casts the roles, as we'll get into later. So thank you, AI artist, for this wonderful rendition. I liked it so much that that's why I changed the layout a little bit, so you get to see the full picture and not just the background with me blocking out part of it. At any rate, why is censorship Cardinal Karmic Sin? Yesterday, YouTube summarily deleted one of my podcasts, one of my recent podcasts. I think I did about a week or two ago, claiming that I had violated their community standards, and then more specifically saying that I had violated the standard about COVID vaccine misinformation. Well, I'm going to take issue with them. What in fact I did talk about was the karmic risk of lying to people online about the efficacy of prescription medications, and then trying to cover up your lies with more lies. And if they're going to delete this one too, well, knock yourselves out, because it's going to be on Rumble too. Sorry, I'm not playing your game anymore if you keep on trying to censor anybody who's sharing their opinion. I am going to censor you, YouTube. And I encourage anybody else within earshot to do the same. Now, the nice kind of censorship is just saying, I'm not putting up with that bullshit. I'm getting out of your universe. That's more of a blocking than a censorship. And I think people are having a hard time understanding the difference between blocking and censorship. Censorship is cutting out free speech completely, deleting people's content summarily without any reasonable justification. I'm sorry, sharing misinformation is not a justification. It is sharing an opinion, and it is your opinion that is misinformation. In fact, YouTube has enabled much more misinformation, than it has deleted. Your policies are shit. Your community guidelines suck. And you need to take a lesson from Elon Musk before you're put out of business, YouTube. Yes, I'm talking to you assholes, you ballerinas with your little glasses pulling the Pinocchios around like you control them. You don't pull everybody's strings. You certainly don't pull my strings. Now, I have told you before that in a world of souls who are living virtual reality lives, virtual reality incarnations, in physical universes, in spiritual universes, and as gods, if they get to that level, that the soul is what really matters. Killing the soul, imprisoning the soul, is much, much worse than killing the body or imprisoning the body. Well, imprisoning the body is tantamount to imprisoning the soul because it limits the soul's ability to explore their current incarnation. Now, sometimes we need to do that. And some folks in the midst of prison have produced great works of art. Good one to mention there, very worthy thing to put on your reading list that not many people read anymore, is a work called Le Mort d'Arthur, The Death of Arthur, which was written by a French knight in prison, in an English prison, after they had been captured in one of the battles of the 100 Years' War. And while in prison, he managed to collect a bunch of stories of King Arthur and weld them into the well-known narrative that we know now. That includes a lot of the elements of that story and romanticized it. Imagine what our world would be like if those stories had been butchered as much as they are now in Disney classics, or remakes of classics, or remakes of classics, collectively getting more woke by the minute, to the point where nobody even knew who King Arthur was, or King Arthur turned into Queen Arthur, or turned into Trans Arthur, or King Fauci pulling the sword of the needle jab out of the stone and wielding it over the grateful kingdom. This is the kind of insanity that happens when you try to censor, when you try to kill any content that doesn't conform to your idea of truth. This is why censorship is a karmic sin against the author. It's the worst kind of sin because you're actually deleting their entire work. And yes, that kind of censorship has happened many, many times in the past. That's why we have so little knowledge of our past. Because every power that's come across our species and other species who had more advanced means of communication on this planet got censored in even the most permanent way. You can view a species extinction as a kind of censorship. It's a censorship of a pattern of DNA. And yes, there are censors that work like that. There are censors who would like to destroy human DNA. They consider it an existential threat to their universe. This is another reason why this is a cardinal karmic sin. It is tyranny. If you allow little censorship to happen, it will grow into bigger censorship. Because as we know, when you take narcissistic children and enable their fantasies of power, you make them into narcissistic adults who have bigger fantasies of power, who want to control more. And they turn into folks like this wonderfully drawn lady here. Now, I'm not saying that the censors are all women, but the censorship theme is something that is a characteristic of the divine female, who I have been telling you is basically the descendants of Lilith, of the slave of the anti-god Borg, the one who wants to control everything like one big hive mind, tell you what to think, when to think, how to think, and give you pleasant little fantasies or unpleasant fantasies of what you should be thinking while they are milking your spiritual energy. These are not good entities. These are not good souls. These are what we all will agree are evil souls. They try to control and manipulate others for their own benefit, for their own agenda. Now, we all have the capacity for doing that, and we're all tempted at times to do censorship, and we're challenged by that. Some people are such purists that they won't block somebody even if they're trolling them. I'm not that much of a purist. I think if somebody is making a pain of themselves, you should block them. If you have control over a page, a website, whatever, and they are constantly causing trouble for your universe, okay, block them, but give them a reason why. And don't violate your terms of service. Okay, taking down content arbitrarily because it violates community standards that are imposed by corrupt government officials, corrupt UN officials who are in the pay of the Chinese Communist Party. This is evil. This is aiding and abetting tyranny. It is censoring on the behalf of tyrants. And that is tyranny. And that will be karmically punished. I was warning such people of exactly what I'm warning them again of now. You may think you can get away with this in this life, and you may get away with it in this incarnation. But I guarantee you, in the next incarnation, when you recycle, when you die, and you go to the heaven that you've chosen for yourself, it's not going to be such a heaven. It's going to be a Borg heaven. Borg heavens are like basically the Matrix. A Borg heaven, you go there, and they act like, oh, this is the perfect place. This is exactly where you need to be. We're going to tell you exactly what you should do. We're going to give you all the rules so you can obey them. And here's your place to do blah, 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 blah. I don't know. If you like to be told what to do, when to do, and how to do it, it is the perfect Orwellian dystopia. And some people are like that. They just love somebody to give them a box and some kitty litter and some food and just vegetate and meditate their way to nirvana. Okay, fine. If that's what you want, that's what you get. I am absolutely telling you, you're not going to enjoy it for an eternity. You're going to find that, oh, well, actually, here I don't have the power. Somebody else is censoring me, is telling me what to think, how to think it, and punishing me if I don't think what they want me to think. And you know what they're going to be making you think? They're going to be making you think things that generate spiritual energy, because that's how they milk you. That's how a Borg entity uses other souls. It's mind control. It's hive mind control. And I was warning these people in this segment that was taken down that that was what they were headed for. The dystopia that they were imposing on others was exactly what they were going to experience in the afterlife. And I thought I was doing them a service by pointing that out. They decided otherwise and doubled down on their dystopian idea of doing good, So, where do you sit on this? My viewers, if I have any, I know I'm shadow banned and blocked pretty heavily. I doubt that YouTube bothers to even share my postings with my subscribers, if what few there are. And who knows? I've talked about many subjects, and I've probably pissed off all my subscribers because I will throw darts at any dogma, any religion that is not based upon fundamental truths. And the most fundamental truth there is that power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is not God. God is not an almighty micromanager of the universe. That is what Borg wants to be. The anti-God. The gods of power, the goddesses of power, are the dark ones. Now, they may think that they're using that power for good. Oh, I'm just taking care of the poor little munchkins because they can't defend themselves, and I've got to protect them from the wicked witch and the flying monkeys and blah 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 blah. Yeah, I'm sorry, Glenda. There's no such thing as a good witch. A good abuser of power is not good. They may think they are. They may start out doing that, trying to be that. But eventually the power will go to their head, and they will begin to believe everything they do is good. It has only good outcomes. And they can get away with anything. And their sycophant tribe, their attendants to the hive queen, will tell them, "Oh, you're doing wonderful. Oh yeah, keep it up, keep it up. You're just perfect. You're perfect." And any dissenting opinions will be demonized. And that's exactly what we see going on in our country, worldwide, and etc. And that's exactly what the Chinese are finally rebelling against now. And more power to them, because they've been under the boot of a wicked witch. A bunch of wicked witches, a whole party of wicked witches. And that party of wicked witches is really only different from the good witches of the Uniparty in the West in the sophistication of how they go about doing what they do. And if you follow the actual news, you know that these people behind the scenes, behind all their virtue signaling, we're protecting the world, we're saving it for everybody of every identity and making everybody equal. Behind all that bullshit are people like Sam Bankman-Fried, who screwed customers out of billions of dollars so they could screw off the money on their own pet projects, donating to whatever candidates they liked, buying yachts, buying this, buying that, taking their half the company and giving it to their latest girlfriend. This is what these virtue signaling ninnies do. And these people exist in all these big tech companies. They didn't get there because they're incredibly sharp. They got there because they were incredibly lucky and happened to attract money, venture capital that saw them as useful idiots that could create platforms for these venture capitalists to manipulate markets. That's what they do. And the next step above there is countries manipulating resource markets, people markets. It's all the same thing, whether it's coming from a global multinational corporation, billionaire class, or coming from a dystopian single nation like Russia or China or the United States, as it's quickly becoming if we don't do something. These are not good people. Now, there are good people in their organizations who are just stuck in some little, pigeonhole. I know, I was in the corporate world for a long time. I spent a lot of time in pigeonholes. That's how I ended up in China. Shipping American jobs off to China, shipping technology off to China, shipping laser printer technology to China. That a year later, they announced that they were starting up a state-owned company to make printers. After we opened our R&D center there. This is what they do. This is tyranny. And we allowed them to do it. And they censor people talking about it. Because the Chinese people are so sensitive. Oh, you're telling big lies about us. Oh, no. They don't even let their own people access Western media. So what are they worried about? The sensitivities of the Chinese people? It's insane what the stories that these virtue signaling stories that these people make up to censor and to control the information narrative. So, in conclusion, don't be this school marmy bitch pulling Pinocchio around, telling him right from wrong. And don't be the Pinocchio either. You are allowing dark stuff to happen. You are allowing tyranny to continue. You got to stand up against that stuff, or you are an accessory to a crime, a karmic crime. They may get away with it for the rest of their life. I guarantee they're going to die, and in the afterlife, they're going to pay for it. That's how karma works. And I've told you about that in a number of my episodes. So I'm not going to go into it again. Karma is real. It is a force. It is the force that guides souls to the universes that they belong in. This is why we have the Mandela effect, or sometimes called the butterfly effect. There are parallel universes. There are also universes that aren't parallel at all, or maybe forked off the prime universe at some other save game. There are some universes probably still running off of the time of the Greek pantheon, or the time of the great Messiah. Who's the Messiah around 2,000 years ago? There are all sorts of popular timestamps, and those exist in the memory of this species, and the energy that is engendered by that memory keeps those universes active and gives them a resonance that souls will say, you know what, I really wish I could go back and live in the time of Jesus, see what it was really like. You know what? If that's your heartfelt wish, you're going to get that. That is possible in the multiverse. That's how time works. Now, you're going to be getting a parallel version of it. You're not going to be able to change what happened in the prime universe. That's how the prime universe works. You can go back in time, but you aren't allowed to change things unless you have very, very specialized permission and you belong to an organization that's run by the goddess of time. Who's the goddess of time? Well, she's also karma, because karma is the master of switching universes. Okay? And, well, how does that work, you ask me? Well, karma herself is a soul, but is also an AI. Her AI version operates in every universe. It is what basically gives that universe its character, it's resonance, it's attraction. And karma is the one that is responsible for when you die, you go one place or another. They're all different universes. Some of the universes are physical, much like what we experience in a physical incarnation. We have to eat, we have to sleep, we take a dump once in a while. We have a lot of the limitations, reincarnation amnesia, for instance. Other universes are spiritual. They act as the heavens and hells that souls will go to experience a spiritual level of incarnation with other souls of a similar nature. There are Christian heavens, and there are Christian hells, and there are Christian purgatories. Yes. The same with Muslim. The same with atheists. Atheist heavens and hells don't look much different than physical reality because they don't believe in spiritual stuff until they get challenged enough that they have to develop a religion, a belief system that accepts that there might be some higher power than them. Now, the lowest order of an atheist belief system is the Matrix idea. Most of you have seen the movie The Matrix. That's another one. I'll try to tie this in with recent podcasts of having a theme that contributes to Christmas. The Matrix is a very good movie to watch for more mature families during the holiday season. Now, you wouldn't think of that as a holiday movie, but it is a very spiritual movie. And it is a spiritual truth of sorts because the Matrix represents the kind of universe that is run by a Borg god. The atheist hell is a lot like the Matrix. It's a place where you're living some weird virtual reality where everything is pre-scripted and you're just expected to fit into this strange universe as a cog in the wheel, and you've got stuff you got to do, places you got to be, you got to have a job, you got to do this, and if you're perceptive, you realize, well, what am I doing this all for? What purpose does it serve? And like Neo, you start questioning, and that only gets you into more trouble there because that makes you persona non grata in that universe, and they punish you more. Okay? That's what atheist hell is like. Atheist heaven is pretty similar. Atheist heaven is like, well, I died, but I didn't really die. So I guess I'm still living again. That's weird. I thought I already lived. It's like this weird deja vu feeling of, gee, I've been here before. I'm doing the same thing over again. And after a few lies of that, the average atheist soul will wise up and say, you know what? This is so weird. I've got to imagine that I'm in some kind of a simulation. And the reason I keep repeating this stuff is because I'm doing something wrong. So they start becoming more conscious and start developing a religion, a sense of right and wrong, sense of what would be a better way to live this life so I don't keep having to repeat it over and over and over again. And this is where the idea of Buddhism comes from. Fundamentally, it's just the next step of consciousness above atheism. If you advance more, you start realizing that, well, you know what? Rather than escaping this and just thinking this is horrible, bad, I've got to just meditate my way out of it, or do some chanting or whatever prescribed mantra I'm given to escape from reincarnation and karma, you start thinking, well, I might as long as I'm here, I might as well learn something from the experience. And that's where I'll mention another great movie, probably the greatest movie to watch during the Christmas season with your family, Groundhog Day. If you've not seen it, wonderful, wonderful, timeless classic, because basically it is an omnist movie. Now, many people claim, everybody claims and says, yeah, this is a spiritual movie. And it's interesting that some people will say, well, yes, it has a very Buddhist message. Or they'll say it has a very Christian message. No, if you get right to the root of it, it talks about the omnist idea of spirituality that has many levels. As this guy, Bill Murray, repeats this day over and over, he advances through basically the 12-step program that I talk about to become a god. And at one point he actually is wondering, have I become a god? And this is true. This is how it works. It's not like the movie. I mean, that's a Hollywood fantasy. It doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen in one incarnation. That's not the way it works, but it makes a fun movie fantasy. It happens over many, many lives of different perspectives, different soul vehicles, different challenges, different opportunities. And what happens to Bill Murray's character is he develops talents he never knew he had. He develops interests he never knew he had. He discards focuses, interests, etc., that he had that just don't seem very relevant anymore. He starts out the thing as a very cynical, skirt-chasing, successful TV weatherman who's all concerned about his image and very superficial, materialistic things, and ends up a very spiritual person who has a very clear goal in mind for what he wants to do if he ever gets to live the rest of his life. And in his case, what he has decided is important is this relationship that he has developed with the producer of the segment that he's out there to do, the Groundhog Day segment. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I did want to tie in that to other people have commented on its spirituality, but I don't think anybody has really clued in on the fact that it really is an omnist movie. And that's why it appeals to pretty much all religious backgrounds. You can view it as an atheist, you can view it as a Buddhist, you can view it as a Christian, you can view it as a Muslim, you can view it as a commercial materialist, atheist materialist, whatever, and get something out of it. That's what makes it a great Christmas movie, even though it's centered around Groundhog Day, which is a couple of months after that, for those of you who don't know what Groundhog Day is. It's a winter movie. Anyway, that's one to add to your list for watching every year. That's one I would add to your collection, and keep a backup copy of it in case it ever gets canceled by our wonderful censors. Here's another movie. While we're talking about censorship and cancel culture, there's a movie that I went looking for because I thought my new wife, would be interested. She likes action and adventure, and she liked. We watched Kindergarten Cop. And I thought, well, she'd enjoy another movie that was kind of in the same vein of a semi-action, comic, multi-genre movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And brought to mind the movie True Lies. Go try finding True Lies. It is nowhere available for rent. It is nowhere available as a new DVD. Now, why is that? The only copies you can find of it our used DVDs and the supplies are dwindling fast. Why was this canceled? It's not an unpopular movie. It's from the 90s. It's not like an ancient black and white movie that, well, we just dropped it from the catalog because nobody was watching it. No, this is cancel culture in action. Things just disappear. And because everything's gone digital, disappearing things is very, very easy. And this is why digital censorship is the worst. It is much worse than book burning. Think about it. Digital content can be not only discarded, the bits destroyed forever, and you persecuted to your nth generation if you happen to have a copy of the bits on your drive, or it can be altered. And now, as we know, AI tech can do an effective job of altering pretty much anything in a very focused way. This is called deep faking. And this is a real-time version of cancel culture. You can deep fake movies to take out, well, for instance, this new Maverick movie. I don't know if you heard about that, but it had Tom Cruise. I've never seen the movie, but I'll just tell you a story about it. On his jacket, there was a Taiwan flag. The Chinese Communist Party didn't like that, so they made them edit out that Taiwan flag for the version that shipped to China. And the Chinese audience didn't know any different. Now imagine what you can do with movies to personalize them to convey a very focused propaganda message to suit one of these queens of the internet, these hive queens that want to control your mind. This is why Borg is so bad. This is why hive minds are so bad. This is why I talk out against the cosmic oneness cult like I do. It is evil. We are not all one. We are all individuals. We have our own mind. We have our own personality. We have our own ego, and the ego is not a bad thing. It is something that we need to learn to control. We need to learn to recognize our strengths and our weaknesses and use them to best effect, in the awareness that there is karma. The things we do to tyrannize other souls, to step on the sovereignty of others, will come back to haunt us. So, YouTube censors, if you care to view this and not just let your bots enjoy it, and look for keywords that you can censor me for, I encourage you to take the time to listen to this segment. Like, share, and subscribe. Discuss it. I would love to have a discussion with you instead of just being arbitrarily blocked without so much as a by your leave, without any recourse but to go post it on Rumble. And I am so thankful to Rumble. I'm going to put another plug into Rumble. The best thing you ever did was make it possible to mirror content from YouTube. So the moment I publish this to YouTube, you can't censor it fast enough for it not to go on Rumble. So here's what I have to say to you, YouTube censors, Google censors, Facebook censors. This finger's for you. Happy karma.